on me to run. A lazy, lazy river beneath the noonday sun. Link up for a while, need some kind of tree who says throw away your trouble. Dream a dream with me, oh, up the lazy river.
Started on a pair wheel boat when I was a kid. That's how I got my start. I wound up on one. It's the fastest thing that ever hit the Mississippi. This boat will do 16 miles, 17 miles an hour without any trouble. That's fast for steamboat. The biggest thrill of my life since I've been out here was the steamboat race we had. In 1975, we had the first race, and after 125 years, we raced the Delta Queen. That was the highlight of my career. I'm happy. I can go here or there now. My heart's fulfilled.
If you look out here over the oleanders, you can almost see the river, which is where every major 19th century literary figure that I can think of came to at least visit the city of New Orleans.
I moved to New Orleans almost 3 decades ago for 1 year. I never left. I lived uptown. I just don't think I could live anywhere else.
I'm painting historical paintings, right? So I figure, what if you looked into the past, what would you like to see?
The uniqueness of Louisiana food, because it was created here in most part, it's just there's no other conditions that has brought that wonderful taste together anywhere in the world that I can find.
You probably think that I should, speak in a little Southern accent. And I'm here to tell you, I'm not a Southerner. I'm a New Orleanian. Two entirely different things.
For both its visitors and inhabitants, the heart of New Orleans is a 10-square block area known as the Vieux Carré, or more commonly, the French Quarter. The site of the original city, it was founded by the French in 1718. Although later ruled by the Spanish and eventually sold to the United States in the Louisiana Purchase, the Vieux Carré has long retained a strong French character. Fred LeBlanc has spent most of his 86 years in the quarter. He remembers when, in the first part of this century, the Vieux Carré was in many ways still a French city.
This block was all French that lived in this block here. Right here was a French barber in this house here. And here was a gunsmith. And here was a French shoemaker. In fact, this whole neighborhood was French. None of my families, including my grandmother, didn't come from France, but their ancestors came from Nova Scotia. The French that were driven out of Nova Scotia because the English drove them out, and they settled here in Louisiana to find ways and means of making a living.
The European character of the French Quarter has attracted a great number of American writers. Cynthia Ratcliffe leads a literary tour of the area.
The second major literary renaissance of the French Quarter and New Orleans occurred in the 20s when Sherwood Anderson was living over there in the Pontalvo buildings. Steinbeck, Dos Passos, Hemingway, they all came. And the most important literary figure of the time of all, William Faulkner, came as a guest of the Andersons. Now, after a couple of weeks, the Andersons suggested to Mr. Faulkner that he might like to find his own living quarters. And so he moved into this wonderful little blue townhouse here and lived on the second floor.
This is a famous Napoleon house that was built to rescue Napoleon, who was in St. Helena Island, held as a prisoner of war of France. But communications at that time was so slowly that Napoleon died before they could ever get him over here. But this is the house that was built expressively for Napoleon. These were always what we call shotgun houses, because it's straight true. If you shoot a gun from the front door, you go all the way back to the kitchen. They call them shotgun houses.
Even though we have some 40 places in the French Quarter which we can associate with Tennessee Williams' work and life, this is my very favorite stop of all, because it's in this building here that he wrote Streetcar Named Desire. He moved in the middle of the year 1947, and he says in the memoirs, at first I was working on a revision of Summer and Smoke, but then I put that aside and I started to work on Streetcar, and I finished it here.
Not all Americans who came to New Orleans settled in the French Quarter. Stanton Fraser lives uptown in the famous Garden District of the city.
We're riding on St. Charles Avenue streetcar line, which is the oldest continuous running rail streetcar in the world. It goes through uptown New Orleans, past the Garden District, where uptown New Orleans starts, and where the Americans first settled, leaving French Quarter, where they didn't really get along with the French and Creole societies there. The other reason the Americans moved out is that they liked more space, and as you can see, the gardens are bigger here and the yards. Indeed, at one time, the blocks were divided into quarters and only 4 houses. Naturally, as time developed, that was changed. I have a deep love affair with this area. It's a small community in a way. Everybody knows each other, or certainly is acquainted. Many of the houses in this area were built by the same architects that built the plantations along the river: Thomas Sully, James Gallier, Jr. and Sr., and Henry Howard, who built Nottoway Plantation, which is the largest in the South.
So what this represents, you know, I thought it would be a good idea to do a kind of a picture of the river as it looked, and the river traffic as it looked in like in the 1840s, which was sort of a golden age for this city, and vis-a-vis river traffic and trade and all that kind of stuff. But I like to hinge my pictures around a story.
George Schmidt is a unique kind of historian. His history of the city is told not with words, but with pictures.
And so what I decided to do was to base it on the story of this man right here, who is a philanthropist. And well, he wasn't perceived as a philanthropist at this time because he was looked upon as a miser. And he lived across the river from New Orleans in a place called McDonaldville, which is named after him. And he was a planner and a real estate magnate, but he was considered to be a very tightwad, you know. And but one of the reasons he was because he would have one of his servants row him across the river every day instead of paying the fare, see. And so But when he died, it turned out that he left all of his money to the New Orleans public school system and to the poor. See, so anyway, this is supposed to be John McDonough right here, and also the boats, the frigates and all the sailing ships were mainly all docked on one side of the Jackson Square, and all the steamboats were always docked on the other side. And at the foot of Jackson Square, we usually were all the ocean-going passenger vessels. They docked there, so that's kind of what I've had in mind doing that. What I'm hoping I'm doing is that I'm actually creating a visual historical analysis, you know, that you'd find a correlative of in any decent historical book about the city.
When people come to the city, there are always a few things, and to me, I call them the vital misconceptions. Number one, we are not on the Gulf of Mexico. Number two, all Creole food is not red. Number three, all Creole food does not contain seafood. Number four, all gumbo does not contain okra. And number five, New Orleanians do not speak with a Southern accent.
And what happened was that in New Orleans, we created what we call Creole food. And in the countryside, Cajun food was created. And I think both of them basically were created in Louisiana.
But the word Creole, for all its mystery, just comes from the Spanish word criollo. Spanish word criollo was a designation of those who were born into a colony. And the word means children or child of the colony. The corruption of the French became the word Creole. And because we were a French city first, the word Creole stuck down here.
Creole food came from a unique set of circumstances. New Orleans is a port city. It has 7 flags flown over it. Every time that a country owned New Orleans, when they left people behind.
And in a very base level, it forms 4 major units. It formed out of Indian, French, Spanish, and African cuisine.
And so this is how Creole food was created. And it's probably the cleanest, most original creation of food anywhere in this country.
I'll try the pompano en croûte.
Shrimp clemenceau, please. The trout meuniere, please.
New Orleans meuniere, this is to die for. If ever you catch me or see me in a paper, have committed a capital crime, and yes, I'm going off to the electric chair, you will know I have eaten this the last meal.
You know, we have such wonderful restaurants that have the atmosphere that'll please anybody, that no matter what feeling they want to eat.
Now, we're going to do the shrimp because barbecued shrimp in New Orleans is one of those most glorious, again, people will travel to this city just to eat barbecued shrimp. And there are certain restaurants in the city that are just known for barbecued shrimp. Now we can start seeing that the shrimp are changing colors. Now again, our shrimp, this is the way when they're cooked, they're going to turn pink, and this is the way that a shrimp raw is going to be. And at this point, I want to shake. I don't want to stir, I want to shake. So you stay. Okay, no, we're trying to shake the pan. With a couple of pieces of French bread here, and this would be a New Orleans barbecued shrimp.
Shrimp clemenceau.
Pompano en croûte. Trotte Monnier.
Second greatest passion of a New Orleanian is eating. It's not what you think. First greatest passion is talking about food.
The other painting besides this McDonough picture that I'm doing is a painting of Louis Armstrong playing in the Fate Marable Orchestra on the SS Capitol in 1919. Right after the war, right around the time that the music was first being recorded, and right before Armstrong and King Oliver and all that bunch left New Orleans to go up to Chicago. And it was Armstrong's first opportunity to play first with a really professional band. So in other words, it's a real pivotal period. Marable had to play the music fast, like a good clip, one steps and two steps, to keep from giving the opportunity for the people to slow down. They didn't want them to play slow music because they considered that a bit too erotic. In fact, the Stratford steamers had chaperones on this boat to make sure that people were not dancing too close. And they throw them off the boat if they caught them what they called belly rubbing. They were touching, you know, and sort of doing this thing called a slow drag or the grind. And that's why I've got these people practically running across the dance floor, like doing the one step or the two step.
At any particular time, you could find people talking about, even in this type of weather, in the middle of summer, about Mardi Gras and costumes they're going to wear, themes. Everything in New Orleans is directed to Mardi Gras. The art, everything, tourism, and it's wild. You should all come down for Mardi Gras.